talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about sex.
When it comes to sex and dating, television and movies aren't the best handbook on relationships and how to get one. But they do give us definite rules on how to act like a guy and how to act like a girl and how to get a date.
These rules are seldom spoken aloud, and they're definitely not written in any official rule book. But most of us know how to follow them without being told.
You're always the one who has to be the best. You're always the one who has to be the leader and independent, the lone wolf kind of thing.
He was my boyfriend, so I was supposed to do these things to please him and wasn't supposed to worry about myself and what I was really feeling. It was just about him.
You're not really joining with other people. You're always trying to beat them.
I wanted him to be the man, to him to make the decisions, and I didn't want to come be forward or anything like that so that he would think, gosh, she's kind of abrasive.
For example, if the man is in control of the relationship, like I wouldn't want to be in that situation because that wouldn't be the full person. Like my partner, my girlfriend, or whatever, would not be able to be herself with me.
Why not have a relationship where one person has all the control if the other person says it's okay? What's the big deal? What do you lose? Especially if you're the one on top.
I mean, for me, what's so special about when two people are able to connect is that when they're connecting like full heart-to-heart connection, and that if I'm meeting someone and I'm above them, that connection doesn't happen in the same way, and it doesn't feel as good. There's not a sense of trust.
Okay, so it sounds like if you really want to connect with someone, you gotta be equals and share power, like in a friendship.
I mean, think about your best friend. The relationship can't be all one-sided. It's gotta be give and take. If one person's doing all the giving and the other person's doing all the taking, how long would that last?
Yeah, but a romantic connection is different than the one you got with your friend because of sex.
Oh yeah, sex. That's right.
We're gonna get it!
What do you call a girl who has sex with a lot of guys?
A slut or a whore.
Slut, hoe.
That's okay to say.
What do you call a guy who has sex with a lot of girls?
A popular person.
It's a player.
Winner.
They're such a stud and
Studs.
Sex to young men is a rite of passage. It's your way of entering manhood.
I think for girls having sex, there's a perception that you're like giving something up.
In the locker rooms, that's all you hear about. Sex and how I'm gonna get with this girl tonight, and how fine she is, and this and that.
And then if you say no, what's he gonna think about me? And if I say yes, what's he gonna think about me tomorrow?
You really don't talk about what other things are involved with that girl. Is she smart? Is she funny? Is she receptive? Is she, all these other qualities that just don't get discussed. It's about how good she looks and how quick I'm gonna hit it. I mean, basically.
Equality,
Connection,
love.
respect.
It's hard to make all the pieces fit together in a relationship when there are different rules about sex for guys and girls.
And these rules are all the more confusing when we check in with the reality of sex. It's not the same experience for everyone.
There's been quite a few times where I've had some girls that have wanted to have sex, but I won't have sex with them.
I guess I got caught up in thinking, oh, he's my boyfriend. I guess I have to, or what if he gets mad, I mean, I guess we're supposed to do that.
Because I want to be in love when I have sex. I would prefer to be married.
You're in the situation. What are you going to do? Oh, no, I remember the sermon a couple weeks ago says, no, don't do it. That's not what you're thinking about. I'm sorry.
Because I only want to experience that with one person. I just want to have that one person that I'm not connected to any other person in the world that way as I am with them.
I had sex when I was 14 years old, and it wasn't special in any sense of the word. It was a one-night stand.
Yeah, they were saying a few things to me like, oh man, when are you gonna have sex? This was like when I was 16, 17 years old. And of course I lied. I already had sex. Yeah, right.
You need to be ready before you can even think about having a sexual relationship. You need to be comfortable with the relationship itself and know the consequences.
A lot of my motivation was like not wanting to be left out of this thing that I thought everybody was doing, which maybe they were, maybe they weren't, and maybe they liked it, and maybe they didn't, I don't know. But I wanted to be part of this thing. And the result of it was that, like, that sex was not sex that made me feel great physically, and it didn't make me feel connected with the other person. It made me feel mostly lonely and sad.
As years progressed, you slowly realize that these stories these guys were telling you, they're false. They're made up. They're doing the same thing you were doing. Just they did a little better than you.
I'm sort of involved in this relationship now where sex isn't a big part of the relationship, and I'm still having an outstanding, time, just learning everything I can about this girl and spending a ton of time with her.
If you are married or in a committed relationship with somebody, I don't think that's the thing that makes it okay.
The people that I kicked it with were like, sort of, tease me every now and then. It's like, man, you need to get laid, you need to do all this, that. It's like when I did, it's like, it ain't no thing. It's just, it's no big deal.
Has to do with like respect and honesty. Like, I think it's okay. Like, I think people can have sex that like don't even know each other very well or are not going to stay in a relationship with each other, but where there's like where people are being like truthful about that and respectful with each other.
I wouldn't have sex with somebody that I don't think that I was in love with, and that's a personal choice for me.
Like talk shows, and the guy is like, well, I'm leaving if you're not giving me sex. And it's like, well, sex should be something that you can go without because you still love each other, but if you do have sex, then it's that much more.
For all the sex we hear about in the media and see in the movies, most of us are uncomfortable with even talking about sex.
But if we care about our partner and we want them to care about us, then we gotta learn to talk, and we gotta learn to listen.
Yeah, she's the most beautiful car on the lot.
Yeah.
Let's take her for a little test drive. What do you say?
I don't know, I kind of gotta go.
Oh, you'll love it. Trust me.
So great. I already have a car, though. I mean, I don't really need a new one.
Oh, every guy needs a new car. Come on, just sit back and relax.
So cool.
It can be yours for only $300 a month.
$300 a month? I'm still in school. I can't really afford
2 tons of lean, mean machine that can go from 0 to 60 in under 10. You know you want it.
I don't think you're listening to me. I can't take out a loan. I don't have a job.
Your mouth is saying no, but your heart, I think, is saying yes. Am I right?
No! This just isn't the car for me right now.
You're making me just a little mad here. You took the car out, didn't you? You led me on by telling me what a great car it was. I bought you lunch, I paid for the gas. This isn't just about you. How do you think it makes me feel?
Hey, boss! You know this guy's been in here before?
All right, that's it. It's too late to say no now. You don't want to buy a car? Don't walk onto a car lot.
Okay, so you're thinking that checking out a used car lot and taking a test drive isn't exactly the same thing as going out on a date, right?
But what about the pressure you might feel in both situations? It might not seem weird for a car salesman not to take no for an answer, to manipulate you and try to make you do something that you just don't want to do. But is that okay to do to your girlfriend or boyfriend?
It's not gonna be very fun if, someone doesn't want it. So, why have bad sex when you can wait till later in the relationship when they're ready and have good sex?
He wanted to have sex, and that was his thing. It's like, okay, well, we kind of go back and forth. I was like, well, I can't have sex with you until, you meet my parents. And he would be like, well, I can't meet your parents until we have sex.
I've actually known people who've been in relationships like that have felt like if they said, no, I don't want to sleep with you, that person was then going to, break up with them or whatever. And I mean, the only thing that I can really say about that is let them go, you know?
Maybe it's because it's such a powerful thing. For some of us, sex is confusing.
Yeah, like knowing what to do and what not do.
Knowing how to do it.
Knowing how you feel about sex.
Not knowing how you feel about sex.
Wanting sex.
Badly. Not wanting it.
Not wanting it now.
It is confusing.
It's hard to even talk about what should be the most basic stuff, like having safe sex.
But how is it that being sexual can be the most wonderful thing we can imagine, and at other times turn into a horrible experience we call rape? What makes the difference?
So we were chilling and started kissing and whatnot, this and that, and things were moving forward. And, you know, at one point, she basically just stopped it and said, I'm not gonna go any farther. And, you know, I was kind of like, what? What? She said that she wasn't ready yet to go that far. And, you know, that's not easy to hear.
They would express some kind of like urgency about like wanting to have sex so bad, and that like, I think that was something that kind of like hooked me in a manipulative way where like I didn't want to miss out on that.
You know, I was really confused and definitely disappointed. And that's not easy to talk about for guys. You know, it's not easy for us to say, wow, you know, you said no. That makes me feel really disappointed because I had this expectation and I was hoping and da-da-da. Like, communication doesn't flow like that. We're not taught to express our emotions in that way. You know, we got to be hard, maintain, be in control of ourselves and the relationship. And in the context of like, well, you know, in the context of the men being supposed to be in control of the relationship, that looks like a failure. If I let her say no to me, then I'm like, oh, well, you know, I'm a wimp, whatever.
Like, it took me a while to realize, like, I didn't want to do that. I told him I didn't want to do that, and it still happened. And that's awful, like, because at that point, that was probably like the only second or third guy that I've ever talked to, and it was really hard to be like, it doesn't matter. Like, it seemed like he didn't hear you when you said no.
I had been trained to translate that into anger, and that anger directed towards her, because essentially she is the cause, although she's not really the cause, because, you know, the cause of my disappointment and frustration were my high expectations.
In your mind, you're thinking, well, I've had sex with a person before, and you're thinking about all these things at the same time as they're like, come on, and you just don't want to have sex with them. And, you know, especially if it happens, then you don't know what to think.
You know, because I also have a conscience and a heart, and I really don't want to hurt my girlfriend when I don't want to, you know, pressure her. But then I do, because, you know, and so it's this whole internal conflict that then plays out in the conflict in our relationship.
I didn't even necessarily say that I didn't want to, because I didn't know that I could do that.
I mean, she has a responsibility primarily to herself, and when she was saying no, I'm not ready to go further, she was maintaining that responsibility, and it's her right to do that.
If you love the other person, that you would want to. That was just like part of how you showed in a grown-up way that you loved somebody.
You know, the bottom line is that she doesn't owe me sex, you know, or, you know, just because I took her out, had a nice dinner, showed her the town, whatever, like.
I just care for him even more. It makes me feel so much better that I'm not pressured to have sex.
And, you know, it wasn't like the end of the world, the end of our relationship. I went home disappointed. That's okay. You know, that's okay. That happens in relationships. That's part of love and life. But in terms of the connection that it fostered, and she then trusted me not to be abusive or not to pressure her too much, and it just built from there in terms of moving towards a positive relationship.
Manipulation, coercion, lying, anything that forces or tricks someone into being sexual when they don't want to be. What does that do to the equality of a relationship?
When there's force, what happens to love? What happens to respect? What happens to sex itself?
How does it change? I mean, what is sex about anyway?
It's a physical show of your emotional, mental, psychological connection and commitment to this person.
It should be about like celebration.
Sex can also be a way of just feeling good.
That's one of the things that makes sex so special, is that it's not just you. You know, it's you and someone else, and you have to meet on the same level.
And say, yeah, it's really great. But you know what? The more you love the person and the better relationship you're in and the more respect there is, the better the sex is gonna be. Like, it can only get better from there.
One of the few decisions that you have that of something that's yours. I mean, genuinely yours.
It's going to be better when I can really value and trust someone who I'm committed to and is committed to me for the rest of my life.
Probably make sure it's the right one. You know, make sure that you feel for that person and it's the right time, you know?
I mean, it's a really, in some ways, a sacred experience to share with someone.
Can you see it?
A great relationship.
It's hard sometimes even to imagine.
So much junk and hype that's not real.
But just try. Try to think about what you really want.
It's gonna be a beautiful thing.
Feels good.
Romantic.
Respect.
And intimacy.
Wholeheartedly wanting.
And have good sex.
It should be fun.
And it's fun. Yeah, it's fun.
You don't feel so alone. You don't feel lonely. You feel that there's someone who's there in your corner at all times, regardless of the circumstances. Someone that you can always trust. And that's a good feeling. It's like having a home, somewhere to go where you know that you're loved.
It's all that and more.